Again, no intro. I hope everything's fine. I hope it stops crashing. Honestly, wait. Does my mic even? Okay, my mic's on. If it crashes one more time, I'm done. This is like I'm just gonna go about my day and play Final Fantasy 14 by myself. You know, it's just like I don't know. Like this is so frustrating. Oh, why did I break? This is genuinely so freaking frustrating. I swear to gosh, if this, if this crashes one more time, that's it. I'm done. Like, what the heck? I don't know what to do. Like, surely, right? Surely it won't crash again. Am I like, I hope it doesn't crash again. I didn't even get through the first chapter. That's the worst part. Like, I swear to God, if this crashes again, I'm done. I'm gonna play Final Fantasy and I'll just finish this off stream. I literally took a day off just so I can finish this game. Okay, back in the game. I hope no crashes this knock on wood. Knock on freaking wood. What was going on? Yeah, Henny, what is going on? Why do I keep crashing? A soft voice spoke from amongst the TV shadows. Micah could not see the speaker, but she could scarcely see it all given the darkness and her own tears, but she recognized its familiar cadences. The voice belonged to Henny. Micah's dear friend was here too. In this stone cell which smelt of death, and though Micah feared for Henny, she could feel relief bubbling up inside her. She was not alone after all. Henny? Micah crawled forth on her hands and knees, being too exhausted to stand, and stared into the shadows. Henny, is that you? Micah? Henny! A shaft of moonlight spilled through the singular barred window, hewn high into the wall of their cell, and finally Micah was afforded a view of her maid. Though christened Henrique, I know last time I said I'm sorry. I don't know how to say this name, and I'm not worldly when it comes to names. So Henrique, hold on. Name pronunciation. 1 second. Henrika. Oh, okay, so it is Henrika. It's like Micah. Henrika. Micah had always called her beloved maid Henny. It seemed more appropriate for a so cheery woman for Henny, come rain or shine, was rarely seen without a smile. Henny was not smiling now, however. She was sitting upon the wooden cot which Micah had first spied, her head bent. Henny's face looked woefully weary, and had lost so much of its usual pinkness. Her apron, once white, now stained silly with dirt. Henny's shoes had been black and sensible, now they're mirrored in filth, and her socks were rucked up around her ankles. Henny's hands, which held her at her front, were trembling like those of a woman thrice her age. She looked like an awful sight, but Micah knew she could hardly have been better than herself. Henny's hair might have been a mess, but at least she kept it short. There was not so very much of Henny's dark tresses to be worked with in the state of disorder. Micah's own hair, meanwhile, was very long and curly, and though she had worn it in a chignon, she could now feel it strangling loosely around her shoulders. The back of her neck prickled from either the cold or from a dislodged hairpin or two. Perhaps that was why Henny stared at Micah so. Once she regained her own sense of equilibrium, I don't know how to say that, as though she had seen a ghost. My God, Micah! Henny looked so alarmed Micah felt almost ashamed. Micah was no stranger to shame. She felt it frequently, in fact, when she was with her mother, but it rarely raised its ugly head in Henny's presence. Since Micah's girlhood, Henny had been her staunch, steadfast companion. She was the only person Micah knew who took Micah for who she was, rather than wishing often out loud to her face she could be more appreciative, more amendable, more effusive, more ladylike than less than herself. Henny didn't want Micah to be more. She only wanted Micah to be Micah. Did that mean that Micah did not look like Micah in that moment? But who else did she resemble if not herself? What happened to her? Oh, you're right, Micah? Oh, look at your poor face. I think this is where, when I first tried streaming this game, this is where it, like, crashed. Meaning, every attempt of me playing this game specifically, I've had, if I'm gonna count the other one I deleted, I had 5 attempts. 6 attempts of trying to stream this game. Henny rose from her wooden cart, which creaked and crouched before her friend. Reaching out, still shaking, she cupped Micah's cheeks in her fingers and said, "You're bleeding." "I am?" "You've had a nasty cut between your right eye and your cheek." You know this, I don't know if I should mention this, but that reminds me of when I was like in the 8th grade. We were playing a manhunt, and then I think, I don't remember if I was a hunter or the prey, but I remember I was like running and one of the tree branches got caught on like they should have cut it. Honestly, the school should have cut it, but it got caught in like my sweatshirt because I was running through and I didn't notice, and it scraped across my face. So, and then I remember going up to my friends like after a bit, and they were like, everyone was looking at me like, and I was like, "What's wrong?" Everyone was like, "You need to go to the nurse," and I was like, "Why?" And then so one of my friends, and then the teacher was like, "Yeah, you need to go," and I was like, "Okay." So on the way to like the nurse's room office thing, I stopped at the bathroom. And then I just see my face is like all bloody. Anyways, let's move on. Henny sucked in a breath, her expression grim. "It's all banged up. You're positively black and blue." "Oh, I hadn't realized. I'm sorry, Henny." "What?" Henny had procured a handkerchief from her pocket, and it fortunately wasn't dirty, pausing her dabbing at Micah's face to look at her with bemusement. "Why are you apologizing to me, you daft goose?" Oh, I'm gonna use that. "You daft goose. You silly goose. You've done nothing wrong to feel sorry for." "I don't know, No, but that's real though. I always apologize to my friends when I feel like I'm being annoying. Sorry for making you worry, I suppose. Think not of it. It's my job to worry about you. I'm your maid, remember?" "Well, of course I remember that much. My thoughts might be in the state of disarray for the present, but I would never forget you." "Oh, you're much more than my maid, Henny. You're my friend. You're my friend too, my dearest friend." Oh, it's so far. No, I'm not gonna say anything. I don't want to jinx myself. "And I very well say the same about you. That's why it hurts seeing you in such a frightful state. Do I look so very bad?" "Well, now," Henny scanned Micah's face, her own brows bright with mischief. "That depends on how honest you want me to be." "Oh dear. Do I look as bad as all that?" "You've certainly looked better. Your face is banged up as a windfall apple. Windfall pineapple. Why do I keep saying pineapple? Apple. An apple?" Micah shook her head like in wonderment. "I only hope that the apple isn't riddled with worms. I don't think you have anything to worry about on that score, at least." "Well, that is a relief, I suppose. Things could always be worse." I just want to mention the fact that because it kept crashing, I barely progressed in this game, and it is now 10:57 in the morning. "Right you are, that's the spirit. You're still alive and so am I. We're together. That ought to count for something, although..." Henny finished wiping the most of the congealed blood and muck from Micah's cheek, then drew back her soiled handkerchief gripped tight in her hand, her expression newly dour. Dour? Door? Well done. I'm learning so many new words. Dour? Slow.
Dour.
Oh, dour. It is dour. I knew that. Sorry. Her expression nearly dour, and she, after a moment's pause, I am afraid that your parents might have been so unfortunate. Eh? What? Micah's heart leapt in her chest at the somber announcement. What happened to them, Henny? Do you know what's going on? You don't? I recall that we were traveling in Augsburg to my fiance, but as for how we came here, Micah closed her eyes in the hope of remembering something, but again, nothing came. You know what I just realized? I haven't been saving. Should I just save? Nah. Her mind remained stubbornly blank, as featureless as a snowy field, all flora blanketed in untrembled whiteness. I'm afraid I can't remember. Not a single thing. Nothing. I see. Henny grit her teeth together for a few minutes. Her eyes dark. She seemed to be weighing up her words as a baker might measure out flour and sugar before speaking. Hold on. Why is it? Oh, it's so loud! Holy moly, hold on. Okay. Wait, I had a save file this whole time? I couldn't. Okay, whatever. This whole time I had a save file. You know what I did? Because I thought maybe if I restarted my computer, OBS would stop crashing. I replayed the whole thing from the beginning, off stream, and then I started stream. God damn it! I had a save file. Whatever. I had a save file this whole freaking time. Whatever. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. That's not such a surprise, I suppose. You hit your head pretty hard back there. It might be for the best you can't remember all of the glory details. I wish I could forget what happened myself, but Henny's voice. I had a save file this whole goddamn time. I had a save file. Whatever. Whatever. What frickin' ever. I'm not upset or anything. How do I always do that? That kerchief? Kerchief? Oh, it's like a short version. I don't know, I've never heard anyone call it that. That kerchief had been the only clean thing in Mike and Henny's cell, but now it too was ruined, streaked with brown and red. With caca and poo-poo. Sorry. How deep was the cut Micah had sustained? And how much had she bled? This too remained a mystery. Micah did not know. Wait. See, okay. Again, this feels... I feel like we had 3 lines. So we could have just, like... not included. She felt so very unworthy, she might as well have been a little girl again, enthused after she had successfully stolen the key to her family's mausoleum. Micah had not known, as she stood at the chill entrance of the mausoleum, that she was about to lower herself in the subterranean world of death and decay, though part of her had wondered. Henny. Micah took Henny's hand in her own, and her cracked fingernails digging into her skin. What happened? Tell me, please. I want to know. Yes, I thought you might. That does make things a mite complicated, though. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news. Just promise you won't take it against me for what I'm about to tell you. I've gone through a lot of tonight already. It's still the same night? I thought it would have been day already. Okay. I don't know. And that would be the straw to break the camel's back. Henny, please. You should know that this is a trivial concern. I'm fully aware that none of this is your fault. You have only ever sought to protect me. I have no better friend than you. Not in all of the world. And it's precisely because I want to protect you, I don't want to go into all of this. I know it'll upset you, Christ. It upsets me too. It's an upsetting situation all around. It's rotten, really, what people are capable of, but... Henny paused. She sucked in a breath, then in a calmer tone she said, "Your parents are dead." It's just like, your parents are dead. Just how much do you want to know? Oh, I thought, okay. How much is there to know? Oh, I remember everything. Okay. I always remember tonight. I expect it made me quite the impression. Horrible things always do. Oh dear, are things truly that dire? They're pretty bad, yes. Your parents are dead. Sorry. Give me an abridged account then. I have no need to hear everything. Right, you are. Henny bowed her head and... What the heck is that word? Hold on. They got me looking up. Acquiescence. Pronunciation. Oh, here.
Acquiescence.
Acquiescence. Acquiescence.
Acquiescence.
Acquiescence. Acquiescence. Penny bowed her hand in acquiescence. Her face half swallowed, but... I can't read! Benny... Penny bowed her head in acquiescence, her half swallowed by the shadows. The beam of light which had penetrated their drab cell had long since been extinguished, the moon obscured beneath the rolling fog. It was so cold in their cell. Micah could not cease her shivers. Even her teeth felt cold, like the shards of ice implanted into her gums. Henny's proximity served as something of comfort. It could not rid Micah of her trepidation. She knew once Henny relayed the past events to her, her life would no longer be the same. Everything would change. It was changing already, in fact, so quickly that Micah hardly had a chance to gather her bearings. She felt so lost, adrift, and hopelessly afraid. I'm sorry to tell you this, but during our travels the carriage, it was attacked by bandits. What? No! As they came creeping out of the they came creeping out from the fog like... Frog? Did I say frog? Hold on. Yes? I think I did. Yes, they came creeping out from the fog like, I don't know, monsters from a children's story. Maybe, but so much scarier. They waylaid the carriage, then stormed it. They drew out their daggers and threatened your father, and when he refused to comply, well... They killed him. Penny's expression twisted. They stabbed him. So I say, I need that. What? Micah stared. She expected as much. Before Henny began her gruesome tale, but the news still shook her. Evidently she had not been half prepared to hear the worst as she imagined. Oh God, not my papa. My poor papa. Papa likey. Okay, sorry. There's a sticker my friends always use. Don't tell me he didn't. I'm sorry, but... Henny sniffed. It's as probably you're suspecting. His wound was a deep one, and he died. Dead. My papa dead. Dead as a doornail, I'm afraid. I didn't hang around to see what had happened. But... Well... It was all over so quickly. I didn't think he suffered, at least. Do you suffer from a fatal stabbing if you die. Give it a minute. I think I'm wasting time here. Okay, whatever. Let's move on. I feel like that would hurt. No, I feel like where did they hit? And my mama would have heard. Don't tell me she also. Henny didn't reply, but the discomfort which crossed her face left Micah with no doubts as her mother's fate. In one brief night, both of Micah's parents had been slaughtered. Now she was an orphan. And what of us, Henny? How did we escape? I find it hard to believe the bandits would just let us go. Oh, I'm sure we would have joined your parents if we sat still like good little girls, but I didn't want to do that. I took your hand while they were busy with your mother and we ran away. We fled through the woods and the bandits took chase pretty darn sorry. I already said darn. Pretty damn sorry darn quick. It was very dark and the fog was thick and I could hardly see what was happening. At one point you tripped and you fell, and that's how you got that nasty cut on your poor forehead, and I was dragged down with you. We lay there on the ground in the dirt while the bandits tramped around looking for us. I figured we were both capable gooners. There's truly something wrong with my head. I figured we were both a couple of goners. I started to say my praise to the Lord Almighty, but then we survived. Yes, we survived. This, Micah supposed, was not such a surprise. It went without saying, really, that they had survived. Otherwise, they would not have been sitting in this ghastly cell speaking to one another. Either the bandits had spared them, which seemed unlikely, or somebody had come to their defense. Who would have been wandering the woods so very late at night? Are we gonna see the vampire? Are we gonna see the vampire? Or am I gonna see the vampire? I hope we see the vampire! Micah Carly credited. I hope we see the vampire! Are we gonna see her now? We better see her now! Their escape must have been the stuff the fantasies were made of. Do you know how we escaped, Henny? I know what my eyes saw, but if my eyes can't be trusted or not, well... Who's the vampire? Please! Please! There's another matter altogether. Oh, that's another. I think I might have bumped my head myself. It was all so peculiar. At the time, it seemed like a miracle. But looking back on it, that ain't the right word. Miracles suggest God and all of his angels. But there was not holy about this. It was right a proper mess, really a total bloodbath. Blood? Yes, there was blood, and lots of it. It was hard for me to explain, but all I know is one moment we were sprawled upon the dirt, you unconscious, I half out of my mind with fright, and as the bandits approached, and the next they were gone. We're gonna see her, please! Gone? But where and how? Did they run away? Not necessarily, but none of their own free will. The fog parted, you see, and then this figure. This woman. Yes! 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 Sorry. She appeared so quick. It was like she sprung up from the earth. She wasn't very tall. I don't think she was, at least. She was very skinny, but the way she looked, the way she moved, there was something unnatural about her. I didn't get a very good look at what happened next. I saw her go after those bandits. I think there was at least 4 of them, but that woman soon took care of them. There was so much blood and a lot of mud. It stunk to high heavens. It did. It brought tears to my eyes. That woman, though, the woman in white, didn't seem fussed at all. She stood there once she had finished, beneath the moon like nothing had happened, and then... Henny pressed her fingers to her brow, overwhelmed, and shook her head. I don't remember anything after that. I think I must have fainted. Are we finally gonna see her? Are we finally gonna see her, please? When I finally woke up, I found myself here. It was your crying that woke me up. I've never been able to rest easy while you're in tears, Micah. Yes, I know you've always been so good and so kind. Thank you, Henny. Micah chanced to smile through the muscles about her mouth, felt atrophied, worn away following the news of her parents' demise. I've no idea I would have without you. It sounds like you saved me. From the bandits, I suppose I did. But I wasn't much of use when you took that nasty spill. There's no way I would have been able to carry you to safety, not when we were all turned about in the woods and I had no idea where we were. I think I scraped my own shin, my ankle aches. Aches? Achies! We would have been goners if that woman hadn't appeared. But now that I'm talking about it, it doesn't sound real. I can't think of any woman who'd be able to beat 4 men in a test of strength. Not even your own Mademoiselle Blancard. Mademoiselle Blancard. Micah's smile widened at this. Despite the severity of their situation, she was even able to manage a laugh. It was a weak laugh, which contained a little way of mirth, but it was sincere. Henny never failed to cheer her out. She must have had a knack for it. Micah was too old to believe in magic, but when she was with Henny, she sometimes wondered, are you sure it was a woman who fended off those bandits? Perhaps it was one of those some sort of animal instead, and you failed to perceive it in the fog. Pretty sure you could see a difference between a human and an... Actually, never mind. That's why there's so much, like, Bigfoot sightings. That could be it. Like I said, my mind's a mess. I feel like I've lost a good 10 years off of my life, although... Here Henny smiled grimly, in the manner of all survivors after witnessing something so horrid. That's better than having it cut short altogether. We must be thankful for small mercies, yes, even if we were saved at my parents' expense. Micah squeezed her eyes shut. She could feel the tears beating upon her lashes in hue. This time, she was able to subdue them. The news of her parents' death was a heavy burden to hear, but Micah, not having witnessed their final moments, found it hard to imagine. It still did not seem quite real. The shock of it all perhaps had blunted her senses. It would have been a while for her parents' passing to truly register. When it did, however, Micah did not doubt the tears would come thicker and faster than before. It had always been so, but her childhood misadventures in her family's script had left her something of a crybaby. Real, I'm also a crybaby. Now then, Micah inhaled, then glanced about. Where do you suppose we are? How do you suppose we got here? That's a good question. I've been wondering that myself. Are we gonna see the vampire girl now? Please! It's not the nicest of digs, is it? Not particularly. It's awfully drab and it's damp too, and I'm freezing. You poor thing, come here. They're gonna hug. Aww. Henley. Why do I keep adding letters to things? Henny shifted closer to Micah, then she drew her arms about her. Holding her close, she then glanced about. Both maid and mistress squinted into the shadows, as though they might unearth some secret way of escaping. A trapdoor, perhaps, a hidden passway. But to Micah's disappointment, she found the cell quite unchanged. Oh my god. It was every bit of sparse as she recalled. The shadows did little to mask this fact, and it still stank. Goodness me, it's not much to look at, is it? We might as well be in a prison cell. You are in a prison cell! I think... You are! What do you mean? Why are you guys thinking? I think this might be a prison. It is a prison! I think that might be what it is. Penny drew back from her Micah, her legs crossed beneath her upon the stone floor, and she frowned. I reckon you're right. I wonder who brought us here. You and me both. It was nice of our mysterious benefactor or benefactress to rescue us, though they cannot be all that kind if they're gonna let us suffer in here. You think they could at least put us in a nicer room? Okay. I'm not expecting a first-class accommodations, but you deserve better than this, Micah. This place isn't fit for rats, let alone people. Rats! It's alright. Are you being serious? Penny raised an eyebrow while Micah smiled. It's better than being dead. At least if there's lodgings, even if these lodgings are a mite uncomfortable. I've never seen mite use that. Only a mite? Well, quite a bit if I'm being honest. She drew her arms around her legs, her knees beneath her chin, and said, when I woke up, I was lying on the floor. Penny's eyebrows shot up her forehead until they met her hairline. The gesture was so exaggerated that it managed to bring another smile to Micah's lips, despite how very dire their situation was. I suppose it makes sense, but There only being one bed, but oh, that's too much. I can't believe they fling you about like a sack of spuds. Many unbelievable things have happened tonight. Our benefactor must have been bucking the trend. Some benefactor, when I get my hands on them, I'll give them what for. Eh? I'll give them what for. Don't, Henny, it wouldn't do a pick a fight with whoever brought us here. I wouldn't want to anger them, not when we are at their mercy. True. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. Why, but that makes us sound like captors. You are. You are captors. Is that not what we are? This is a cell after all. We have no means of escaping. We're being treated like prisoners. I know, but it still stings. Are we not gonna see the vampire yet? Please! I wanna see the vampire! I don't care about me. I don't want to see you being treated like a convict, not when you've been through so much. You've been through worse. At least I don't remember what happened, unlike you. And you're the one who'll be saddened with the consequences. Poor Micah, it was your parents, not mine, who were, well, killed. I don't suspect there's nothing much trying to suss out who's suffering more than who. As it stands, we're both in this together. All in this together. I won't abandon you, Micah, so try not to worry. Keep your chin up. We'll get through this. Thank you, honey. I almost believe it coming from you. You should. I don't say things I don't mean, you know? Please, when are we gonna see the vampire? Now let's see. Maybe things aren't as dire as they look. There could be a way to escape yet. Henny rose to her feet, though unsteadily, did a circuit of the cell. The shadows made it seem larger than it was. For they obscured the walls. They did not take Henny many steps to canvas full length of the dingy room. She pressed her fingertips to the walls, then her ear, as though the stonework might whisper their weaknesses to her. But the walls, of course, remained mute. Henny took the bars between her fingers and squeezed experimentally, but they refused to yield. Oh, come on! Frustrated, Henny gave the bars a kick. The tip of her shoe collided with them, losing clods of dirt from her soles. But, damn it all! The bars refused to budge. They were quite impenetrable. Sighing, Henny changed tack. She moved from the door and glanced up to the window, but it was similarly barred too. Too high up to reach, and much too small to squeeze through. It almost seemed like a miracle that it was a small window allowed any moonlight at all to spill into the cell when the clouds and the fog shifted. I just realized, I guess it could have been day, but then they were both sleeping. And Micah asked when a disenchanted Henny flopped back down beside her with a rustle of her skirts. Did you uncover anything? Not at all, except we're more trapped than I thought. Maybe I should give Henny a southern accent. I thought you might have come to that conclusion, yes. God. Henny kicked her right shoe, then began to massage her feet, which had begun to throb. This is a rum situation. I wonder what we're to do. I don't think there's much we can do other than wait. I suppose, right? I can't say like the thought of that, though. We're sitting ducks here. I feel we ought to be taking some sort of action. Henny looked... Watch me forget 5 seconds later. Henny looked around about the cell once more, then sighed. But I'm drawing a blank here. I can't think of anything we could do. I'm sorry for being so hopeless, Micah. I meant to look after you, but I'm a total loss. Don't apologize, Henny. I feel better simply being with you. If that's something, at least I wish I could be of some real use, though. You are of real use. Without you... Oh, I already forgot I was supposed to give it a southern accent. I'd be unconscionable mess. I'd be an unconscionable mess sleeping on the floor. Well, we can't be having that. It breaks my heart to see you cry. Much it breaks mine to see you all... What? Wait, flagellate? Self-flagellate? Flagellate.
Flagellate.
Flagellate. Oh, it's like flogging. Okay. Flagellate, so over something that is not your fault. Touché. Now that we're well and truly stuck here, I suppose we ought to make the best of it. Although, I've had a bad feeling about this place. It gives me the creeps. I don't know who imprisoned us here, or what cause. They have no manners to speak of. Why, it's almost as if Penny found herself. Are we finally gonna see her? Please! Henny began, but she found herself unable to finish the sentence. A sound issued forth from the darkness, emitting from beyond their tightly sealed cell. It was a faint sound, but Henny still heard it. Hovering in the sour and musty air, it sounded like a scream. Good God! What in the world was that? I suppose that was just the wind. Do you really think so? Oh, I thought we were gonna... Yes, I imagine. Micah answered in the affirmative, though deep down, both she and Henny knew the truth. That had not been the wind. It had been too raw, too pained. Though faint, unmistakably human. With no obvious way to escape and very little to do, Micah and Henny had no choice but to idle their time away. They sat up on the floor together with their legs folded primly, like two little girls conducting make-believe tea party. Henny at first balked at the thought of seeing her mistress sitting on the floor like a plebeian. But Micah's dress was already so dirty, so it didn't matter. The two women did not, however, abandon themselves to their inertia? There's so many object resist changes in motion. Okay. Interesting. Henny knew that she had to do something to take their minds off the ghastly predicament. Fortunately, Henny was not empty-handed. She had in her pocket alongside her kerchief. She had used to wipe a pack of cards. These cards were worn and bent at the corners, but they remained perfectly functional. For want a better way to use their time, Henny proposed Micah to play a game of Joker. A game which Micah agreed to. You know, should I mention this? Lou finally showed me what Fire 52 pickup was, and I never want to play that game again. These two women played several rounds of Joker, examining their decks, dispensing of cards. The game did not require a great degree of tactical thinking, but it helped alleviate some of Micah's worries. It could not, alas, alleviate the cold. But Micah herself had been shivering for so long she had almost grown accustomed to it. She had been in the dank, miserable cell for so long she could scarcely remember how it felt to be warm. Had her journey to Osberg continued impended, she would have been sitting by the fire in Walter Gerhardt's living room, or else tucked up in one of his many guest rooms with a warming pan up to her feet. Both Augsburg and Walter's Gerhardt seemed very far away to Micah now, though being confined thus in a prison cell. How long had she been sitting with Henny on the floor shivering? Micah did not know. She could not tell. All Micah really knew was her infinite ignorance was that the night seemed hopelessly long and she hopelessly small and insignificant. There was no clock in Micah's cell. Neither she or Henny carried the timepieces upon them. The only means Micah had tracking the advancement of hours was the sliver of sky. She could barely see beyond the narrow window situated high above her head. She could recall the sky had been dark upon her waking. It remained so now. 3 games of Joker later. The moon, which emerged from the fog at irregular intervals, shone in its pallid light upon Micah's head and upon her hands, the cards lightening her Joker and his wide rictus grim. Micah had never cared for such the Joker and Henny's trusty pack of cards. Its expression unnerved her. Every once in a while, as she played, Micah spared a few glances at the barred window above her head. Though she could not guess the hour, she knew it was late. It could have been an advanced hour of night, or have been, by the same token, the very early hours of the following morning. The calendar might have shifted already from one day to the next, but Micah was none the wiser. The sky was so dark, Micah found it hard to believe the sun would ever rise again. The darkness which abandoned within her cell was so incomplete, she almost seemed to have blotted out the very concept of the morning altogether. She feared she would never see again the sun's golden rays and never again hear the twittering of her starlings in the trees, which announced a brand new day. When did the birds begin to chirp beyond her bedroom window anyway? Micah did not recall, but though it must have been around 6 in the morning. Micah had gone to bed at 10 every night, like a dutiful daughter ought to. She had often found it hard to sleep for a full unbroken 8 hours. She would arise at odd hours, at 1 or 2 or 3, her head full of thoughts, and often found it hard to sleep again. When this occurred, Micah had run from her bed to her windowsill, her forehead in the summer pressed to the glass. They always seemed to help cool her errant thoughts alongside it. Oh, how her mind raced. This is ridiculous. Penny growls, all while examining her cards. We ought to be at Gerhardt's right now, safe as houses. We weren't so very far from Osberg, at least I don't think we were when we were attacked. Why did those bandits have to go after us? We were just unfortunate, I suppose. I can't imagine the bandits meant specifically to target us, but we just happened to be there. You're probably right, but... Goodness. Of all the awful luck. At least you've had a fair run during your game. You have beaten me out soundly during your single hand. Ha, well true, I suppose I should thank the heavens for small miracles, eh? Eh? Henny's Canadian? Okay. Henny smiled at Micah's attempt to cheer her, but it did not last. Both Henny's smile and Micah's cheer was half-hearted, as they both were soon swallowed by the sinister darkness of their self. It's a shame I don't feel more thankful. I wonder what oh my gosh, Gerhardt would make of this. He'd be off his head, I'm sure, if he knew the state you were kept in, Micah. I'm enraged too, for you and him. You deserve far better than this. You're von Hessen. We're crying out loud. The person who's holding us here will feel mighty sorry for when they realize who you are. You're a real lady. Maybe. Micah's reply was vague, in both tone and meaning. Not even Micah herself was sure whether she meant to disparage Henny's optimistic assertions that her being a lady would grant her any favor with her captor, or whether she meant to challenge the notion she was a lady at all. Micah had been born to a noble family, it was true, but with a lineage which could be traced back centuries. But the von Hessens were not what they had been. Half a century of poor financial decisions and a grandfather with compulsive gambling addiction had led to the squandering of much of the von Hessens' wealth. While still in the possession of their family home and a veritable fleet of maidservants, the family's finances had been in a dire state ever since Micah could remember. Though not openly wanting for cash, Micah's parents had made a good many purchases based on their family's prestige rather than the figures in their bank account. Micah's wedding to her Gerhardt had been an attempt to shore up the family's wealth before they could fall from grace altogether. But now that seemed an impossibility. How could Micah wed Walter when she was incarcerated? If Micah had loved Walter, she surely should have shed tears over such a cruel fate, 'cause you don't like him. As it was, however, she was curiously calm. What? Oh my gosh, so lost. What did she care of how Walter Gerhardt felt? She barely knew him. Well, not to worry, Gerhardt, why do we keep changing it? Her Gerhardt. It's like a tongue twister to me. Must be sitting in his drawing room now, wondering where the blazes we are. Gerhardt must be sure to send out a search party before long. He'd be worried sick about you, Micah. You really think so? Absolutely. I mean, he is your fiancé. He's got to be worried. You're such a sweet thing. I don't see why he couldn't. He couldn't. Thank you, Henny. I appreciate it. Don't thank me, Micah. I'm just stating the fact. If I was a man and I had a fiancé like you, you bet I wouldn't let you out of my sight. Perhaps it's a good thing I'm here with you then. At least I know I'm alright. Yes, you are. I think heaven high on for it. You know, I'd do anything to keep you safe, Micah. I know. Micah could well believe that coming from Henny. When it came to Henny's claim about Walter, however, Micah was less certain. I'm getting hungry. A man! What did she know? Sorry. What did she know about Walter really other than his age, his occupation, and how fabulously excessive wealthy he was? Micah had met Walter on only 3 past occasions, and they exchanged almost as many words. The man was a stranger to her, and Micah's desire to marry him was inversely proportional with her parents' desire to see her walking down the aisle. Micah had been dreading her visit to Osberg for well over a month. Now it's been terminated. She felt a perverse sort of relief. Part of Micah had begun to wonder whether the bandits' attack had brought it some good alongside the bad. When are we gonna meet the vampire girl? We're still on Act 1! But that Micah chastised herself and was hopelessly cruel. Were her parents' lives truly worth that little to her? It was true enough that she may never see Walter Gerhardt again, but she would never see her mother nor her father either. It was not a fair trade, not by any stench of imagination. How could she have ever thought of such a thing? She really must have been wicked. Was that why she found herself in such a dire situation? Perhaps this was God's way of punishing her for being a poor daughter, and a sinner who spent too much of her time lost in her daydreams, imagining which could have never and would ever never be. Eh? I'm pretty sure I read that wrong. Vampire girl, where are you? Mike and Henny sat in their cell for what could have been minutes or hours or even days, wheeling away the time. By God, there was so much time, with continued, unending, incessant games of Joker. Micah's heart was not in the game, her head being otherwise occupied, and Henny trounced her soundly 12-1. Never heard that word. Henny was better than Micah at cards at games in general, so this came little surprise. Micah was accustomed to losing and accepted her failures with a good grace. There were more important things in life than in card games. Oh my god. In any event, Micah was glad to be rid of the eerily grinning jokers in her deck. Little of note happened during these dead, empty hours. Micah had begun to wonder in a detached way, as Henny launched into their 14th round of Joker, whether they would ever meet their rescuer. Please, I'm waiting for you guys to meet your rescuer. Perhaps whoever had hauled them from the forest had done so, not as an act of kindness, but as means of prolonging their suffering. Maybe they meant to keep them locked in the cell, alone until time itself swallowed them to a trickle, then ceased, the squalid stone walls tumbling down about them to crush their emancipated corpses in the debris. But soon, shockingly soon, or so it seemed despite all the interminable waiting, Micah found her hypothesis proved wrong. Are we please! She could hear above the sound of Henny shuffling the deck, a sound. Footsteps. The footsteps were quiet enough at first. Micah wondered whether she had imagined them, but as the seconds elapsed, they became louder still, until even Henny heard them. Goodness me! Yes, please! Henny fumbled with the cards and threw them down. Red hearts and black spades split across the stone. Can you hear that, Micah? Yes, I can. Somebody must be coming. Are rescuers from the woods, do you think? They could be a rescuer, but maybe. Micah chose not to finish the thought. Her saliva felt too thick in her throat like tar, and she shivered. She didn't want to extinguish the hope she could see flickering now in Henny's eyes. That would have been cruel. Yeah, that would have been cruel. Henny's head swiveled to the grated iron door, excitable as a puppy, and wide-eyed as she peered through the shadows. This is a turn for the better. I was beginning to worry that they'd forgotten all about us. I can't wait to come face to face with them. Surely I'll tell them exactly what I think about her. Their so-called hospitality. Hey! Henny! Hey, we're prisoners! You said that once before, Henny. I wish you wouldn't. I don't want to anger them. Oh, stuff and nonsense. I'm sure it'll be fine. Henny, no. If they wanted to harm us, they had plenty chances to do it already. Surely. That is true, but... The footsteps drew closer. Closer still, echoing through the stone walls, echoing inside Micah's skull. The footsteps could represented only two things. They would mean salvation if they were lucky, but Micah found it difficult to believe this. Neither she nor Henny had been very lucky that night, despite Henny's continued winning hands in Joker. It seemed far more likely that these footsteps would bring about yet more suffering, and yet, sure enough... Well. Please, yes, would you look what the cat dragged in? The voice cut through Micah's musings was a proud, haughty one, the syllables polished to perfection like cut glass. The voice belonged to, quite obviously, a woman, and given her pronunciation, she must have been well bred. Perhaps the rescuer was a lady, the Von such and such, like Micah, from a family whose ancestral home was vast and old and grand enough to have its own dungeon. Whereas most nobility use their subterranean storage spaces for wine cellars, this family seemed to prefer taking prisoners. That thought did not fill Micah with such confidence about her mysterious rescuer. Anxiously, she glanced up to meet the source of the said voice, and when she did, oh! Micah could not help but gasp in surprise. Finally! Oh my god, finally! Freaking finally! The owner of the voice, who now stood upon the opposite side of the cell's door, was not at all Micah. Was not at all Mike? What the fuck? The owner of the voice, who stood upon the opposite side of the cell's door, was not at all what Micah imagined. She was shorter than Micah had expected, shorter than Micah herself, who was dwarfed by her wealthier, significantly older fiancé, and slender with it, her cheekbones high, her neck not dissimilar of a stem of a flower. Her skin was frighteningly pale, like that of a corpse, and beneath her eyes Micah could see dark rings, which similar to those sported along the long nights of her bedroom window, unable to sleep. We finally saw her! The woman, or was she a girl, had hair so fair that it was almost white, which almost seemed to glow in the moon's light. Her hair was not worn in a chignon, but instead it was loose. It tumbled about her shoulders in waves, disarrayed all manner, which made Micah's mother swoon from. Would have made Micah's mother swoon from all the sheer impropriety of all. The girl's appearance, but was she a girl, was striking, not only because of her indeterminable age, but because of her eyes, which were widely spaced and fringed with the most luxurious lashes. Her irises were not brown like Henny's, nor blue like Micah's. They were not green, nor hazel, nor gray, nor any other shades Micah had seen in the faces of her family servants, and the attendants of the boutiques to which her mother took her, the congregation of her local parish. Her irises were instead a bright red, so much so they bordered on the visceral. These lovely irises were even redder than the blood which had been seeped from Micah's sliced cheek, and seemed to be full of violence. Violence! The girl was a perfect stranger to Micah, but her eyes told more than pleasant chit-chat ever could. She was not normal. Micah knew instinctively as she gazed upon her that she should keep her distance if she could, but this only made her conversely feel more enchanted. She could not look away from her. It was as though her captor had placed her under a spell. That woman, Penny shifted back, her skirts shifting against the ground. She's the one I told you about, Micah. She's the one from the woods. She's the one who fought off those bandits. I thought what I saw was unbelievable. Now I don't know. Now I know it wasn't a dream. She really is real. She killed all those men. She's a monster. Oh. A monster, have I? The woman's unnatural eyes narrowed with a smile and said, You cut to me quick, you humans do. At least you would. Were I not accustomed to it. Perhaps I bring it upon myself given the unusual manner in which I treat my guests, but you could at least try to be polite. Why, if it were not for me, the both of you would be lying in the woods right now, mangled beyond all recognition. So you really were the one who saved us. I thought as much. Yours isn't a face anybody could forget in a hurry. Why, thank you. I will take it as a compliment. I am very striking, I know. Why did you save us, though, and how? I can't believe you brought us back here, wherever here is, on your own. You must have had help. Oh, if only, but alas, if I had any help Or for a, well, let's see, it must have been a century at least. A century? Henny gawked at the woman, her eyes agog. But that would make you older than my grandmother, and that can't be right. You don't look like a day over 18. Oh, you really do think so? You're too kind. Laughing softly, the woman extricated a key from her pocket, inserted into the awaiting keyhole. We finally get to see her fully! Deftly she turned it, and deftly she stepped inside the cell, the hem of her dark cape dragging against the uneven stone floor. Once again, the cell she turned to close the door, then locked it anew. There, that ought to do it. It'd be terribly tedious if you tried to run from me. I would be able to catch you, of course, but I'd rather not bother with all of the fuss. Real. With the door secured, the woman placed the key inside her pocket, then turned to look at her prisoners. Her red eyes met Micah's, which was narrowed with mistrust and pouting. She said, "Now, why are you looking at me like that? You're making me feel quite unwelcome." I thought you'd be relieved to see my face after being left to anguish in the catacombs of my castle for hours on end. But maybe I was hoping too much. And in case you shouldn't frown like that, dear, it's an awful waste. You'll wrinkle your pretty face. This chastisement was familiar to Micah. She had heard it many times from her mother. While Micah had been trained to obey her mother without question, however, it was not so with this strange woman. Some of her... What the heck? Reticence? I'm learning reticence.
Reticent.
Reticence? What?
Reticence.
Reticence. I can't... Like, some of her reticence probably needled. Micah said, "What do I do with my face is my own concern. I'm sure it's none of your business." My goodness. You're feistier than you look. I took you for a shrieking violet, but maybe I was mistaken. You might be... Honestly, I thought this was gonna crash again, and I was just gonna be able to play Final Fantasy. And you know what? It is my stream. Maybe I'll just play this again another time. You might... You might take me for quite an amusing plaything, though you'd be a good sight prettier if you smiled. I can't say I blame you for being so surly, though. I never liked smiling on command either, though it's been many years since anybody last tried to give me orders. It's fortunate that nobody could tell me what to do now, at least. It came at quite a price, but... Oh well, never mind. Where are my manners? My name is Magdalena. You may call me Lena. Yay! Lena or Lena? My family's name, meanwhile, is of no particular importance. They might as well commanded some respect back in the day, but it is not so now. What the hell? But it is not so now. They have been long since obliterated. I doubt history will remember them. It would not wish to. I am all that is left to their legacy, a fact that I would very much love to rub in their faces, but alas, I never got the chance. It was very nice to meet you for the second time this night. Oh, it's still the same night! So saying, Magdalena dropped a neat curtsy, taking hold of her cape in a louvre skirt. Oh, she's wearing a cape! But I'm afraid I will not afford such of a chance to properly to know you. While I could relish the chance to speak to a couple young maidens such as yourselves, I have designs for you beyond idle chatter. Food! Food! What do you mean by that exactly? Only that I have brought you here. I cannot continue to let you live. You have already seen too much. You're gonna die. Henny stared at Magdalena with wide eyes. So full of fear, the air swelled with it. What do you mean? What I said, do try to keep up. It's awfully tedious having to explain myself down to the finer details. But I suppose you have the right to know the bare minimum, prisoners though you may be. I would hate to keep you in suspense at this point. We're still at Act 1, eh? I would hate to keep you in suspense. At this point, it doesn't matter how much you know. You won't be able to tell anybody else what you might learn here. You'll not be venturing forth beyond the walls of my castles ever again. Magdalena smiled, her lips lifting in a wicked grin, not so very unlike of the Joker in Henny's pack of cards. Though Magdalena's face was light, her lips were red, much like her eyes. They stood out in her milky face, like a rose blooming despite the winter's chill. Or else Micah thought, with a shudder, freshly split blood. You're gonna die. You must understand I'm not a normal woman. No human can cope to best me when it comes to a competition of sheer strength, as the bandits who were pursuing you soon discovered. It didn't take me more than a few seconds to dispatch them. The fight they put up was so pathetic, it makes me wonder why they even bothered. If they had any respect for my time, they would have slit their own throat with their daggers and saved me the trouble. You humans could be awfully thoughtless. I think I'm gonna go until like 12:30 or 12 because I'm hungry. I was planning to stream for like 4 hours, but like honestly having to like try to fix OBS multiple times took it out of me. But if they had done that, I wouldn't have been able to bring the leader of their group back to my castle. He wasn't in a bad way. I was obliged to introduce myself to him before bestowing you upon similar honors, but I must oblige you for making you wait. Magdalena dropped another curtsy as an elegant lady might, but it smacked of insincerity. How many men and women had Magdalena brought to her castle? How many had she similarly tortured? Micah knew at least of one besides herself and Henny. The bandits' leader? Did you kill him? Eventually, yes. Damn. It was quite the sight. You ought to have seen the way he begged and pleaded and groveled at my feet. A grown man like that who's practically made of muscle. Oh, how fickle the fortune is. Just 1 hour hence, he was a predator, stalking his prey through the woods. And the next, Magdalena drew her hand across her neck in an unequivocal, universal gesture of a slit throat. Well, what goes around comes around. He got what he deserved. His screams really were exquisite. Did you perchance happen to hear them? He was rather being... What? You like... Oh goodness. Surprised are you? You shouldn't be. That man was a bandit. A vulture in a man's flesh who profited out of misery. If it weren't for me, you would be gone as the same way as the poor unfortunates in that stalled carriage. The driver and the horses too. The horses too, no! Nobody was spared in their ravages, man nor beast. They made quite the grisly mess, whereas a century younger would have been enough to turn even my stomach. Maybe that is so, but to gloat over their death like that, it doesn't seem right. Bro, they killed. You're twisted. She killed. Okay, if I'm twisted, that is solely because of this world. Magdalena began, then paused. A momentary furrow captured her brow, but soon straightened out, as though nothing of note had occurred. Well, never mind that. I do not wish to spout cliches about good and evil. I would begin to bore myself. But the fact of the matter is that the man got what he deserved, all as did his compatriots. I took great pains to ensure that. I paid that brigand back twofold for what he did to you. Did you know what he tried to be stoic in the beginning? Humans often are. Human males are in particular. They have so much pride. It's so funny, really, that a cur like that would care so much about appearances. He was less than a man. He was a dog, but he's still pretentious of greatness or of grandeur. I soon stripped him of these lofty delusions, however. Humans are very unlike in one regard. At least you all scream the same after your bones have been broken and you all bleed red. The man was a brigand, I'll grant you that, who deserved the hangman's noose, but that's for the court of law to decide, not you. What you did isn't justice, it's barbaric. You shouldn't be taking the pleasure of other people's death. What you gave was the right to kill. What gave you the right to kill him anyway? I had every right to kill him. He was trespassing upon my land, as were you and that young lady here. Oh, his life was forfeit the moment he encroached upon my territory. The Lord's prayer may have been ought to forgive those who wrong us, but I have no patience with such teachlings. They do not apply to me. The Lord has forsaken me. I am no longer a member of his congregation. He would have no love for me as I am now, and I have little love for him. I cannot conceive how he could have let me suffer so if he truly existed. Sometimes I do wonder. So you mean to add blasphemy to your list of crimes? Well, if I've done far worse than that in my time. The morals of you good sententious church-goers do not apply to me. I'm not of your kind. I'm a drinker of blood who walks the night. I may have been alive for over a century, though. My life was very different to yours and your mistress's. I doubt you would understand me. Neither do I want you to. I have no desire to understand you either. There would be no point. We are much too different. A drinker of blood, that would make you say it out loud. A vampire! It was Micah who offered this fourth label after Henny's voice faltered. Micah was an ardent devourer of books. She had read before such a shadowy denizens of the night, much to her mother's chagrin. Lady von Hessen had thought Micah was a well-bred woman, ought to not read at all. It would only excite your mind, dear. But should instead busy herself in embroidery. Micah, however, had always preferred books to busy work, particularly work which involved needles. She found herself returning to those stories time and time and again, whenever she needed a break from her own dreary life. Micah had read all of the manners over the years, but she preferred adventure stories full of mystery, intrigue, and yes, even murder. Micah knew of her reading what vampires were nocturnal creatures, often aristocratic, who shunned the sunlight and dwelt upon the ruinous castle, stumbled upon the life-full air of fair maidens. Yes, Micah thought in an oddly detached manner that did make sense. She had sensed that there was something strange about Magdalena when their eyes had first met. Magdalena really must have been a vampire. Well, the Fang. It all made sense, at least it would have, but Micah had what? Micah had been a heroine in one of her novels. But Micah reminded herself, was not akin to a story. Micah might have been consumed the books like a starving man, but she had the sense enough to know that the worlds written within the pages of adventure stories were all schemes of fiction. Vampires ought to have remained themselves within the realms of make-believe. They had no business walking about as humans did, made of cold, unfeeling flesh with hearts no longer beat. They were supposed to be constructs of figments of fancy. But Magdalene was undoubtedly real, unsettling though she was. Micah did not make herself for a liar. Yes, that is correct. I am a vampire, and this castle is my territory, and the woods that surround you. You wandered into my domain, you hopeless little lambs, while on the run from those awful vandals. I know none of this is your fault. I have no quibbles with you. I'm not blaming for what occurred tonight. There. See how fair I am? I am too nice by half. Too nice for my own good cause. You have been awfully surly with me, the both of you, but I've only been ever been polite. I would have let you go if I could dispatching the brigands of one thing, but I have no pleasure in harming young ladies. But I fear I would be too foolhardy. I cannot allow anybody who wandered into my realm to leave alive. I do not want you telling tall tales. I should snap both of your necks and be done with it, but... Magdalena's red eyes found Micah's and held them. Her smile, which hitherto had seemed so easy, faded as she frowned. You don't seem to be a mere peasant. I could tell from your clothes, dirty though as they are, that you are from a wealthy background. Your voice and your bearing. Yes, the way you look at me. It all suggests that you are in fact a lady. Would I be correct in that assessment? Yes, you would be. Why do you ask? It would be problematic for me if I were to dispatch a woman of renown. I would not want your disappearance to catch attention of men in high places. If they were to send out a search party, it's not wholly impossible that they would stumble upon my home. I have lived out of my public sight for nigh on a century, and have no desire to invite half of Osberg's constabulary into my home. The idea of it is incredibly unpleasant. Magdalena pulled a face. A small child might be, as a small child might when confronted with a plate of food they did not much care for. If you really are a lady, I might as well exercise some caution. I suppose I could spare your life and kill only this dowdy common girl, your maid. I take it? Magdalena looked at Henny, now her lips curled into a mean smile. What do you say to that? It's not a bad trade. Is it her life or yours? Precious a few people who find themselves in my abode are ever able to live to tell the tale. You be the one in. Goodness, how many guests have I had over the years? There must have been a good 200 or 300. Aren't you touched by my thoughtfulness? Silence descended in the decrepit cell, following Magdalena's announcement. Struck for a Mike could only stare at her, her lips parted. What was she to say to Magdalena's proposal? How would she feel? There was a relief, certainly, that the prospect of escaping the cell, but Micah could take no real pleasure in it when it came to the cost of Henny's life. How could she abandon her friend who'd been by her side since early childhood? Were it not for Henny, Micah knew she would have been dead already, butchered like a farmyard animal in her parents' carriage. Henny had rescued her once already. It seemed unconscionable that she could leave her now. Micah turned this over in her mind, worrying her teeth with her lower lip when. Well, if my life is all you're after, Henny reached out, taking Micah's hands with her own, and then said, "What else is there to think about? It's like a fine suggestion to me. Don't you agree, Micah?" "Hell no! What's wrong with you?" "What?" Micah stared in Henny's round, soft face, her eyes vast and uncomprehending. "Surely you don't mean that. You're not alright with this, are you, Henny?" "Will be a life," I said. I was jumping up and down for joy at the prospect of being eaten by a vampire. Henny's smile wavered, though she tried to maintain a brave face. "If that's what it's good to save your life, Micah, then I'll do it. I do love you, after all. I'm not going to let you get hurt." Henny tried to sound brave, but Micah could hear her voice trembled all the same. She could too feel how Henny's hand shook. Henny, like her, had heard the screams of the bandit's leader as they echoed through the halls. Though neither woman had seen his final moments, they knew from his cries that his demise must have been barbarous. Micah could not allow Henny to endure such suffering for her sake. She could not allow her to die. Micah knew Henny only wished for the best for her, but no. Micah spoke up, her voice surprisingly cool, given the wild fluctuations of her heart within her breast. "I won't allow that to happen. It would be alright. It won't be right. One of us must remain here, then it ought to be me." "What? No, you can't mean that. Micah, surely you jest." "No, I'm not. You know I'm terrible sense of humor, Henny. I can never tell jokes. I don't have enough levity in me for them. I'm being very serious. You always looked out for me, ever since I was small. Not that I always listened to you." "True. Don't you remember when I stole the keys from the mausoleum in my insufferable curiosity and crept inside? But of course I remember. You dragged me in after you despite my warnings, and it went as badly as expected to. Didn't it just?" Faintly, Micah smiled, dire though their situation was happy to share this memory with Henny. For all she knew, she might as well have been her last chance to reminisce with her maid like this. Micah knew not what the future held, but Lady Von Hessen was in such an awful mood when she found out. It was quite frightening. I've never seen anything like that. Oh yes, she was fearfully cross. It was a wonder she didn't come out for her. What? I gotta go back. Fire. Okay. I recall she struck you, and then when I tried to argue on your behalf, she struck me too. She struck me so hard my ears still ring from it sometimes. God, yes, poor hen. I felt awful about it at the time. I really did. I didn't care about my punishment. God knows I deserved it. But you've done nothing wrong. You've done nothing wrong. You'd been perfectly reasonable about this whole thing. If I'd listened to you, you would have avoided the furor altogether, but I was too reckless. I ignored your wishes, and you still tried to protect me. You jumped to my defense just like a knight, and you were slapped silly for your troubles. It was horribly unfair. I dragged you into all sorts of messes before, and you've always come to my defense. You've been a wonderful friend to me throughout the years, but I can't— Are we leaving? Oh, we're staying here, but I can't keep relying upon you. I don't want to take advantage of your kindness, but Micah, I like it when you rely on me. Please feel free to take advantage. That's what I'm here for. No, I can't. It's not right. As long past I repaid you by offering yourself as a sacrifice in my stead. That's not what I want, Micah. Please. Please. Henny stared at her mistress, her eyes Her wide eyes were entreating. I love you, but you're acting like a crazy woman, and you are the pinnacle of rationality, or are you considering this is a crazy deal? That is truly insane. Don't tell me you've accepted all of this. Of course I have not accepted. I'm terrified, really. See how my poor hands are shaking, but none of us is biting. None of us biting, it has to... If I could protect you, then I must. I will, that's my job. No, it isn't. Not any longer. I'm absolving you of your duty, Henny. This farce has lasted long enough. What farce? You know what I mean. Magdalena. I like her. Just have you finished with your little quarrel? I must confess I was beginning to feel rather left out. My apologies. I will endeavor not to be so rude in the future to my hostess. Micah dipped her head in a gesture of esteem, but not so very dissimilar to the way Henny was bidden to bob around her mother. Micah knew she could not afford her anger to anger Magdalena. Magdalena! Oh my god. If Micah was to save Henny, she would be obliged to beg and bow and scrape. Fortunately, begging and bowing were not beyond Micah's means. Oh my god, I'm hungry. Even though she was a lady, she was no stranger to scraping either, having cheerfully entreated to her parents to reconsider her marriage prospects. She had failed on that score, but she didn't intend to fail now. She knew what she must say. It seemed a stretch that Magna would believe her, but if she did... I fear you are laboring a misapprehension, Lady Magdalena. Your reasoning is sound. There would indeed be a ruckus if a nobleman was to go missing, but your application is not. I am not a lady, you see, but my companion is. Oh? Yo. Oh, if you scroll, okay. Magdalena raised an eyebrow. Then you mean to say you are the maid and this lumpin' Henny what the hell is the mistress? That is correct. Yes, I know I am just as a lady, albeit a disgraced one, but that was part of Lord and Lady von Hessen's ruse. While traveling, they often dress me as a lady, while Henny, that is to say, Henrika, dresses as a maid. It is a means of subterfuge that if our carriage were attacked by bandits, I am the one who would be in harm's way rather than my mistress. Only a true desperate bandit would rummage through the pockets of a maid, especially when she was with her lady. Wait. What, Micah, that's... Henny began, but Micah cut her off. She was warning to her ruse she would found the... What? My god, I need to eat. She found she could still not hold her tongue, not until she delivered her full address. Lady Henrika was one of whom was still who will be Miss in Augsburg, not I. She is a fiancé waiting for you know. She is a very important man. If she doesn't arrive before the dawning of the next day, he will be certain to send out a search party for you. You would not want that, would you? Would you actually? Are you actually falling for this? Magdalena pondered Micah's tall tale for a few moments, one gloved hand resting upon her hip. As she thought, Micah stared at her, compelling her, though sheer force of will, to accept her tale of face value. Micah knew that her story was patently unbelievable, but she didn't need to convince a whole jury. She needed only to convince Magdalena. An age seemed to pass, during which nobody spoke until... Oh, very well. Oh! That's how it is, and I suppose I have no choice. You may leave my abode, Lady Henrika. Here, Magdalena dropped into another effusive curtsy. If that is indeed your real name, I will grant you the chance to reunite with your fiancé in Augsburg, who must be waiting for you with no shortage of anticipation. Who wouldn't, after all, wish to dote upon a famed maiden as fair and fine as yourself? You're surprisingly well-spoken maid, however, you'll be bidden remain. Your surprisingly well-spoken maid, however, will be bidden to remain by my side. Do we have a deal? Yes, I would do everything to ensure Lady Henrika's safety. Oh, most assuredly, you would not consent to acting as a decoy on her behalf if you didn't care. What wonderful friendship you women have. It is quite special, really, particularly given the disparity of your social statuses. Now come along, Lady Henrika. Henrika, it was very lovely to make your acquaintance, but now I fear I must cut our meeting short. Let me escort you to the door. It's the least I could do for a woman of your lofty status. Wait, Micah, no! Henry cried, but in vain. Magdalena was upon her, her pale fingers winding tight about her wrist. Micah, please stop this. Tell her the truth. I'm sorry, Hen, but... Abashed, Micah dropped her gaze to the stone floor. Though she had given her life for Henny's sake, she found herself she could not meet her friend's gaze, as she was dragged bodily from their cell. The hurt in Henny's countenance and betrayal stung far too much. This is how it has to be. Says who I was willing to go along with this woman's plans, but you scuppered it up. I don't understand you, Micah. Why would you tell such a tissues of lies to little old me? Magdalena, please. Henny stared at my while trying and failing to dig her heels into the stone floor of her cell. Surely you can't believe my mistress. She's obvious. It's so obvious she's lying. There's no way she isn't a lady. Not with her fancy proper way of talking. She's far more genteel I could ever dream of being. Her manners... Oh! Magdalena! Her manners are certainly more polished than your own, but yes, perhaps this comes from years of servitude. You could stand to learn a thing or two from your maid lady, Enrique. Your fiancé would think... One thing was, you know, I'm afraid. Why are you speaking almost like a fishwife? Now come along, let's not argue. You'll give me a headache. Micah, you can't leave. Let me go. I'm hungry. Henny cried anew, squirming now, but Magdalena's hold upon her did not loosen. If anything, they seemed to grow stronger. To such a degree, Henny screamed. Ow! Owie! Henny's eyes crackled. Okay, I need to eat. Henny's eyes echoed through the cell, more unbearable than of those bandits' leader during his final moments. Magdalena had not made Henny bleed at least, but she was gripping her wrist so tightly Micah feared that she might snap it. Henny, who was short and dumpy, could put up a little in a way of a fight. The poor maid was quite helpless before her. There was nothing which could be done, not any longer. Henny would have to leave, while Micah would remain incarcerated in this dreary cell alone. This is what Micah had wanted when she had spun her, frankly unintelligible story. So why then did she feel so guilty? Let go of me, I say, Micah, please. Henny continued to protest, but Magdalena remained insensible to her cries. The door of the cell was closed once more with a metallic clang, and Micah was left upon the ground, pale-faced and trembling and all alone. Vampire tithe! Forced to marry a man who... When her family fell a full band deep in the woods. Wait, that was just like... Well, to help her, Micah was able to escape. Micah. And Penny. Only to find herself captured by the mysterious vampire Magdalena. The art is so pretty. That was only the start. We only got the intro thing now. It's been an hour. Oh, there's more. Micah fear again yet. She feels safer than she ever did with her fiance. Oh, the art is so pretty. They kissed. Finally! I got the title card! Let me save this. Okay. Holy moly! That was an hour and 20 minutes and I technically already started. So it would have been more than, it would have been like an hour, maybe like 40? Holy moly. An hour and 40 to get this title card. Or maybe I'm just a slow reader. I don't know. The time passed and it started to sleep. No, wait. No. I'm hungry. I'm gonna end it here because I'm hungry. I'll go back to this game. I also need to go back to Curse of Monkey Island, but I'll go back to this game. I'm hungry. Bye, but thanks for watching. If you stopped by, thanks for watching. If you're watching this as a VOD, thanks for watching. I'm hungry. I'm gonna save it here, and I'm gonna go. Okay. Bye bye. I'm hungry. I'm hungry, man. Bye bye.